Welcome everyone, it's Nicola Cairncross here, and I'm squeezing this video in between two unaccustomed outside events, so I've got to be quick because my daughter's arriving any minute to pick me up. Talking of the daughter, she announced yesterday that she's thinking of a change of career. She's been self-employed for a while doing video editing, and she's decided she wants something a little more fulfilling, but she doesn't know what, so that's interesting. And what do I say to people like that? Well, I had a bank manager like that once who said, what do I do after I finish with the bank? Because I've got a feeling it's not going to be much longer before they push me out. So where do you start with starting a business or changing your career, in fact, and you haven't got a clue what you want to do? I think you've got to start first from the realisation that you can do anything you want to do. You can do anything that you're passionate enough about. There is always a way to monetize a passion or an interest or anything like that, really. So with my daughter, we're trying to decide whether she wants to go back to college or whether she wants to go and get a job and learn on the job, or whether she wants to start another business. So she's mulling that over at the moment. I've said to her to start a notepad in her phone, or notes I think they're called, and just literally jot down the qualities in one word of an ideal occupation. It doesn't matter whether it's a job or a business or going back to college, whatever at the moment. Don't try and pin it down yet. And literally just put down the qualities of her ideal day. You know, what will she be doing, spending her ideal day? Is it going to be flexible? Is it going to be steady money? Is it going to be self-employed? Do you want to be out and about? You know, is it just literally write down the qualities of your ideal occupation. With the bank manager, we ended up going through talking about all the things he could do. He had a rough idea that he wanted it to be something that he didn't actually work in, but he ran the accounts for and the strategic overview. But in the end, we ended up making lots and lots of lists of the things he didn't want in a business. And funnily enough, he found his ideal business, which was a coffee shop right under the bank, funnily enough, the very bank he worked in. But we only got to that after about 6 months to 8 months of writing down all the things he didn't want in a business. So I might suggest that to my daughter as well. What don't you want in a future occupation or career? And then also perhaps have half the note for things she does want and half the note for things she doesn't want. Because if you get really, really clear about that kind of thing, then what it does is it gives you a yardstick to measure any idea by. So if she comes up and she says she wants to be a dog walker, for example, a self-employed dog walker, then I'm going to be able to say to her, okay, so let's have a look at your list of qualities of the ideal occupation, and let's have a look at your list of the things you definitely don't want to do. And with my bank manager, for example, is he didn't want to work evenings and weekends. Sorry about the siren in the background. He didn't want to work evenings and weekends. He didn't want to work in the business himself. He wanted something that was a normal business, not anything too wacky and out of the ordinary. So by the time he had his list of things he didn't want, when he walked into the cafe underneath the bank to get his usual sandwich and they said to him, well, we're thinking of selling, he immediately clicked, because he knew all the things he didn't want, and he knew that the cafe wouldn't offer him any of those, and he knew the things he did want, which was that his wife and his sons could work in the cafe, and that he could buy something and take it over as a going concern. So that's one of the things I talked about the other day in my video about how to, if you don't have any business ideas, think about buying a business. Because that's buying a going concern can often cut off 1 or 2 years building up the business from scratch, because when you start a business from scratch, people have got to get to know who you are, what you do, and what you can do for them. But if you take over an existing concern, then you're often taking over the existing customers, the existing cash flow, and sometimes the existing staff as well. And then you can go in there and you can improve how things are done with creating standard operating procedures. And then you can also, by the way, having a standard operating procedure is a great way to manage staff, because you don't need to manage staff if they buy in to the standard operating procedures. So what you do is you go in and you'd interview the staff and say, I really want to know everything about how you do your job right now and how would you improve it. Then together you create the standard operating procedure for that job. And then when someone doesn't stick to the standard operating procedure, because people don't, they get bored or they get distracted, you can just say to them, okay, so how do we need to improve the system? And that stops you having a confrontation about why someone isn't doing their job properly. You literally just say, how can we improve the system, or something's going wrong with the system. And it means, you know, it just means you never have to tell anyone off, and you speak to them like an adult, and you're collaborating in order to make the job easier. Because often what the reason people don't stick to a standard operating procedure is because there is a difficulty or a glitch in the process. So by talking to them as a grown-up and getting their feedback and their input and their buy-in, then, you know, you move forward with a better standard operating procedure. Well, that saved me so many times when I was in management and from going off. I mean, I remember one occasion particularly where I was running one part of an organisation, and someone else had a run-in with one of my employees. And I said to them, you know, they said, you're going to have to go and tell them off. I said, well, I'm not going to go and tell them off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go and find out what went wrong with the system, and find out if there's a way we can improve it. And that just was so much of a better way to go about it, rather than going in and shouting at my employee and having a go at him. I just wouldn't do that. That's just not, treating people like children when they're grown-ups is a very bad way to go. Anyway, I've got totally off topic here, haven't I? But yeah, that's how I did it. What I did was I sat down at the hotel and I worked out which tasks had to be done annually, which tasks had to be done quarterly, which tasks had to be done monthly, which tasks had to be done weekly, which tasks had to be done daily. And then I created a page in a, oh, here we go, I've just got some handy here, a page in a slippery fish, and then that went into, with big writing on it, and then that went into the How We Do It Here manual. And obviously my father never took any notice of that at all, but when he was running my hotel. But now I think about it, Steve didn't take much notice of it either. But he had run a top restaurant, so I did let him off most of the time. His way was usually the better way. And as he put it, it was either his way or the highway a lot of the time. Oh my God, this is not a very focused video. That's because it's a Friday. Anyway, so if you're thinking to yourself that you want to create an extra income and you want to start a business, whether it's online or offline, and you don't necessarily want to buy an existing going concern, but you don't know what you want to do, then just start yourself a little note on your phone or a page in your time management diary or whatever it is you're using, and just divide it in half and say qualities in my ideal business and things I don't want in my ideal business. And you'll find that after a while, just by the very act of thinking about it and the very act of making notes about what you do and don't want, you'll find that you attract your ideal business idea to you. And I know that sounds a little bit woo-woo, and I'm not a very woo-woo person generally, but I really do believe in the law of attraction. And the best thing you can do to make the law of attraction work for you is to get very, very definite about what you do want and what you don't want. So I'm going to be sitting with my daughter in the car for a good hour in a minute, and we're going to go and visit my great nephew. Oh my God, he's so sweet. And we're going to be having a good old chinwag about what she's going to be doing next in her life. I'm sure she's looking forward to that enormously. There's something really not very great about having a mother who's trained as a coach. I try not to coach too often. Anyway, enough said already. I'll see you tomorrow.